Hi, I'm Adolph Oliver, and this is our video clip on how to graph equations using slope and intercept. And of course, we've been talking about slope and intercept recently. Hopefully you remember that if you take the equation you have and put it in the y equals form, then it can be matched up with y equals mx plus b. This is the slope and the intercept. That's why they call this the slope-intercept form. So let's just remind you here, the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. Now, this intercept point gives us a starting point, and from there we can step off what the slope is and get a second point, and we're able to draw the graph line using those 2 points. Let's work up a simple example here. Let's say we have y equals 2x minus 1. Okay, this happens to be exactly in the form y equals mx plus b. You don't always get them like this. You often have to rearrange them, but remember then, this being in the proper form here, here's what we do. The m is just the plus 2, what's in front of the x, and then the b is the other number hanging out with it, the plane number. Okay, this is our y-intercept, and this is the slope. So if we make ourselves now a graphed line here, xy graph, we can go ahead and graph this whole guy up. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, here we go. Here's the x-axis, and here's the y-axis. Now we have to always have a starting point, and our y-intercept is our starting point. We know that the graph line crosses the y-axis at -1. So if this is my -1 right here, there's my starting point, the y-intercept. Now, the next thing I know is that I have a slope of m equals 2. Well, remember, m, of course, being the slope, equals rise over run. Okay? And since we have rise over run here equal to 2, I can make a fraction out of that 2 by putting a 1 underneath it. Anytime you have a whole number, you can always make a fraction by doing this. So notice then I can match the run up with 1 and the rise up with 2. Okay, here's how we go back and work this on our graph here. Now, I'll put another tick mark out here for x equals 1, and let's see, y equals plus 1, say would be about there. Okay, now remember, this is our starting point. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 arrows off of this, one for the run and the other one for the rise. The run is horizontal, it's plus 1. So I come over here we go, run equals plus 1, okay, and then from there I rise, I make a second arrow going up, and it goes up to this point right here, and this is rise equals plus 2. So what I've been able to do is start with the starting point, the y-intercept, draw my run arrow, and at the end of that, the rise arrow. And at the end of that second arrow, right here, is another point that's on the line. Now all I simply do is get my ruler out and draw the graph line, and there it is. Well, let's look at some examples to see how this goes. Okay, here's the first one again. And it's very similar to the example we just did a couple of moments ago. What we've got here is the equation already in the y equals form. Okay, so remember, y equals mx plus b. So the m again is just whoever's in front of the x. The b is just the plain number that comes after that. So b is plus 2. That's the y-intercept. M, the slope, is plus 2. Okay, well, again, once you get used to doing this, this is very easy to work. Here's the x, and here's the y. So if I have y equals plus 2, 1, 2, say right there, there's my y-intercept, the first point. Then I'm going to put some guide points here for grafting off some more here. Now, here we go. M equals rise over run. Okay, and in this case, it happens to be 2 again. We can make a nice fraction out of that 2 by putting a 1 underneath. So the run is 1 and the rise is 2. Well, remember, the run is always horizontal, and since it's plus 1, we're going 1 to the right. So there's the run, and then the rise arrow has to go up 2 after that. There it is. So let's label this. This is run equals plus 1, and this is rise equals plus 2. At the end of that second arrow right there is another point on the line. So there's my graph going through just like that. Okay, well, let's look at something that has a little different type of slope to it here. Once again, we're lucky we've got the equation in the y equals form here. So I can just line up underneath it here. Y equals mx plus b. The m this time is the negative 1/3, and the b is the positive 3. Okay, well, here we go. Let's draw our xy axis here, x and y. B is plus 3. So 1, 2, 3 right there. Now notice the m equals negative 1/3. So that means our line going through this point is going to have to be heading downhill. If the m was negative 1, the line would be going down at 45 degrees. If the m was 0, it'd be flat. Well, negative 1/3 is in between that, so the line will be down to the right, but somewhat less than 45 degrees. That's always good to have something like that in mind so you know where you're headed for. Okay, once again, the m, the slope, is rise over run. Now, when it's negative like this, I always like to take the negative sign upstairs. So I'm going to do that here, negative 1/3. I like to keep the run positive, and then the rise determines whether we go up or down. So once again here, the run is 3. Now what I need is some guide tick marks here on the x-axis. So remember again, you're starting from the intercept point. Draw the first arrow, and I've got the tick marks below to kind of guide me how to go out 3. So here is the run equals 3. Okay, now the rise is negative 1. I just go down 1 right here. So here is rise equals negative 1. Well, at the end of that second arrow right there is another point on the line. So again, I just come here and line these up, and boom, there is my graph line. Going downhill to the right, less than 45 degrees. 45 degrees would be more like this. That would be, of course, m equals negative 1, so m equals negative 1/3 should be less than that, so this looks real good. Okay, let's see, here's another one that we're going to have to clean up a little bit. Let's see, I got to solve this for y equals, so this plus x will have to go over to the other side. So I've got negative y equals plus x comes over, of course, is negative x. So it'd be negative x minus 1. The minus 1 was here already. Now, I can consider this to be negative 1 times y, so that means to get rid of the negative 1, I've got to divide everybody by negative 1. So here I go. The negative 1's, of course, reduce out, so I get y equals. Now, the two minuses give me a plus here. I'll put the plus just to rub it in. And notice there's only one x here. I could put a 1 up here if I wanted. And so plus 1x, And then the 2 minuses right here give me a plus 1. Okay, so we end up with y equals plus 1x plus 1. Well, of course, as always, remember y equals mx plus b. So the m is plus 1 and the b is plus 1. Okay, here we go. Let's graph this thing up. Here we go. Looks like this. X and then y going upwards. Okay, the b here is plus 1. So if this is plus 1 right here, then we know the line is going to go right through that intercept point right there. Well, okay. Now, the slope m, which equals rise over run, okay, and of course it equals 1, and I can make a fraction by putting another 1 underneath that. So that means I'm going to run 1 and rise 1. Well, you might remember that a slope of plus 1 means a line going up at 45 degrees here, so that's basically what we're going to get. But let's go ahead and play the rise and run game as we normally do. So here are a couple more tick marks for us on the x and y axes. So the first thing we do is run 1. Notice this is a positive 1. We're starting right from our intercept point. So plus 1 in the horizontal direction, in the x direction, means our run equals plus 1. Then we have to rise plus 1. Okay, so here's the rise equals plus 1. Okay, both the run and rise is 1. Well, at the end of that second arrow, as we have another point on the line, so I make a dot right there, and then I connect these up. There is our line going upward to the right at 45 degrees. Okay, one last example here, and notice this one. What you'd really love to be able to do here is to use intercepts on this, because it's in standard form. The x-intercept would be what? -4, and the y-intercept be 5, and you could graph it really quick. But we also want to be able to get this with the slope intercept form. So here's what we have to do. We have to first solve this thing for y equals. So the first thing to do is take the plus x, jump it over to the other side where it becomes minus 5x. So I've got now negative 4y equals, let's see, negative 5x minus 20. Minus 20 was here, the 5x came over as minus, and minus 4y. Okay, that looks good. Now, I got to solve this for y equals. This is minus 4 times y, so I'm going to divide every term in both sides by negative 4. Here it is. The negative 4 is reduced out here. I get y equals. Now, notice the 2 minuses give me a plus. I'll put the plus here just to rub it in. 5/4 is the fraction, and 5/4 times x, and the 2 minuses here give me a plus. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay, so here is the equation cleaned up in y equals form. So, of course, now we can match up y equals mx plus b. Well, the m here is going to be plus 5/4, and the b plus 5. Okay, well, now let's graph this up. Make ourselves an x and y axis here. Here it is. Okay, x going to the right, y going upstairs. And b equals plus 5 is our first point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. Okay, now the next thing that's going to happen here is we got to figure out how we're going to go with the rise and run arrows. So we know that m equals rise over run. Okay, there's no minus sign here. Everybody's positive, so I'll just write it down as 5/4. Now notice 5/4 is more than 1. If this would have been plus 1, it would have been going upward to the right at 45 degrees. this is going to be a little bit more because 5/4 is more than 1. Okay, well, our run is 4 and our rise is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for the run. I've got to go up a little higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to there. Okay, here we go. The run arrow first, horizontal, again, always starting from our y-intercept. It's going to come out 4 to the right. And that's why I drew this to kind of see where we were. Okay, so there's the run equals positive 4. Now the rise after that's got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I thought I had it right here, all the way up to this mark right here. And here's the rise, which equals 5. Okay, so there we are on that. Well, guess what? The end of that second arrow is another point on the line. So now if we join these up, here's our line, a little bit steeper than 45 degrees, which it better be since the m was more than 1. Well, anyway, using slope intercept to graph these guys is not difficult. Always solve for the equation in y equals form. Start out with the b, the y-intercept. It'll be somewhere on the y-axis. That's your starting point. And then get the number in front of the x, the coefficient here. That's your slope m. And set it up with rise over run, so you know how much to run and then rise to get that second arrow. So it's not difficult to be able to graph these guys.